Welcome to this Cinematic Explainer. I'm Dr. Chem, and today we are going to dive straight into the exact principles you need to create truly publication-quality graphs and figures. You can think of this as your essential go-to guide for reproducible visualization. We are going to master the whole shebang together, everything from axes labeling and units all the way to significant figures. Ultimately, we're going to transform your raw data into a compelling, unimpeachable visual story.
So right off the bat, I love asking my students this question. Is your data telling the truth, or is your graph actually lying? It's crucial because poorly fashioned graphics don't just annoy or slow down a reviewer, they can actually lead to entirely incorrect interpretations of your hard-earned findings. Your underlying data might be completely 100% accurate, but if your axis labeling, your units, or your significant figures are sloppy, well, your graph is effectively lying to the reader. A truly great scientific figure guarantees that your presentation is every bit as rigorous as the science itself.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover why visuals literally make or break science, how to choose the right geometry, the dangers of the missing zero baseline, designing for complete clarity, and finally crafting the perfect figure legends.
Let's jump into Section 1, Visuals Make or Break Science.
Now, you might already know this, but reviewers and readers almost always look at your figures before they read a single word of your main text. Your visuals act as the front door to your research, and there's a biological reason for this. The human brain just comprehends images far more effectively than a wall of words or numbers, making visual evidence the absolute core of academic literature. Think about the sheer volume of data modern research generates today. We're sometimes talking gigabytes of information. Trying to explain all that in text simply eats up valuable word counts and drastically slows down data retrieval. Figures, on the other hand, they synthesize massive data sets instantly. They allow the viewer's eye to compare different pieces of data and reveal complex details in a fraction of a second. And because of this incredible visual power, there is a golden rule in data presentation that we absolutely must follow. It is the strict prohibition of double data presentation. Simply put, you cannot present the exact same data set in both your text and a figure. You have to choose the most effective medium. Whether that's text, a beautifully crafted figure, or a well-organized table, it can only go in one place. Sure, you can discuss overall trends or highlight single key values in your text, but the bulk of the data set belongs in only one format to maximize clarity and efficiency.
Moving right along to Section 2, Choosing the Right Geometry.
Overcomplicating simple data with the wrong type of graph is a super common trap. The geometry you choose, whether it's a bar chart, a line graph, or a scatter plot, fundamentally dictates how your audience is going to interpret the relationship between your variables. Take a look at this overcrowded pie chart showing European population data. I mean, it's a mess, right? There are simply too many slices, the colors completely bleed together, and it's virtually impossible to accurately compare the smaller countries. This totally violates the core goal of data visualization, which is making complex information accessible at a glance.
But then, look at how this data evolves into what we call a superplot. This is a real game changer. It's an absolutely incredible way to showcase true biological variability and represent every single data point fairly. Notice how the panel on the far right doesn't just give you a lazy average. Instead, it shows the actual spread of individual cell measurements color-coded by the specific experiment they came from. This level of transparency, this is exactly the gold standard that high-tier journals are demanding today for reproducible visualization.
All right, Section 3, The Missing Zero Baseline.
Let's uncover one of the most deceptive yet common mistakes in science communication, the truncated y-axis. This is where totally innocent design choices can completely warp the perceived reality of your results. Notice how this bar chart shows a mere 5% difference in sales between product A and product B, but because it's truncated to start at a baseline of 900, it creates this wild optical illusion that product B is twice as large as product A. In a scientific paper, a formatting trick like this can accidentally make an insignificant biological change look like a massive earth-shattering breakthrough.
And this is exactly why data visualization guidelines firmly state that the height of a bar represents its full absolute value, meaning bar charts absolutely, unequivocally must start at 0. A good graph is supposed to make data easier to understand, for sure, but it should never make it easier to misinterpret. When you arbitrarily cut off the bottom of a bar chart, you are basically robbing your reader of the true proportional context.
Now, you might be wondering, is it ever okay to truncate an axis? Well, while line charts can sometimes have a truncated axis if they are very clearly labeled, using one on a bar chart is a surefire way to accidentally mislead your reviewers. With a bar chart, the physical height itself is the visual object that your brain is measuring. But with a line chart showing a trend over time, say a patient's temperature over a week, zooming in on a specific narrow range can actually be acceptable. But you can only do this if you use a broken access symbol or extremely clearly flag the scale to the reader.
That brings us to Section 4, Designing for Complete Clarity.
Now that our geometry is honest and solid, let's talk about removing the visual clutter so that the pure science can really shine through. It is absolutely crucial that you clearly differentiate your raw data from your models or summaries. The reader needs to know exactly what was actually observed in the real world versus what was inferred statistically. For example, when you plot a regression line through a scatter plot, you have to remember that line is a model. It's an interpretation of the data. Reviewers need to be able to instantly distinguish between the hard, concrete facts you measured in the lab and the statistical summaries you applied afterward.
So, how do we achieve this? By applying consistent color palettes and fonts and honestly acknowledging uncertainty with clear error bars or confidence intervals, you allow the viewer to focus entirely on the substance of your work rather than getting distracted by the design. Oh, and small multiples, where you show several small, similarly scaled graphs right next to each other, is another brilliant technique. It standardizes the design so the viewer's eye can effortlessly spot the variations across different experimental conditions without having to relearn a new legend every single time. It's a fantastic trick.
But listen, before you finalize anything, you must always check the specific journal formatting guidelines. Honestly, it doesn't matter how brilliant or groundbreaking your data is if your image exports at a low DPI and looks like a pixelated mess in print. Failing on simple resolution or size specs will literally just delay your publication, and nobody wants that. So know the maximum page dimensions, the required file types, and stick strictly to them.
And finally, Section 5, Crafting Perfect Figure Legends.
A beautiful figure completely fails if the reader has no idea what they're looking at. The legend is that vital bridge between visual evidence and actual comprehension. So here is a simple 4-step formula that serves as your roadmap. First, start with a bold, present-tense title that clearly states the main finding. Next, systematically walk through panels A, B, and C in order. Follow that up with a highly focused summary of the methods used just for this specific figure. And lastly, leave absolutely zero ambiguity. Define every color, shape, scale bar, axis label, unit of measurement, and clearly state what those error bars actually represent, including your exact end values.
Take a look at this comparison. Notice how the bad legend is super redundant. It basically just repeats the main text and completely skips defining the statistics. On the flip side, the good legend provides exactly what a busy reviewer needs to interpret the graph instantly. A really common mistake here is copying and pasting entire, huge paragraphs straight from your methods section right into the legend. Just don't do it. Keep it lean, strictly relevant to the panel at hand, and fiercely focused on defining the visual elements.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one absolutely crucial question to ask yourself before submitting any paper. If a reviewer only looked at your graphs and your legends, would your scientific stories still survive? If you've chosen honest geometry, avoided those deceptive truncated axes, prioritized clarity, and written a precise step-by-step legend, the answer is going to be a resounding yes. I'm Dr. Chem. Thank you so much for joining me in this masterclass. Now go out there and let your data tell its true story.